Hello and welcome to this presentation of concept number 2 as applied with the PTS Primo charts. Now this is an educational webinar where we'll show you another method, another technique that you can specifically use that comes from our secrets course, and you can use it as applied to our new educational platform, PTS Primo charts. I'm going to show you a lot of slides on how to apply concept number 2. But before we begin, we are required to show you this once again, so please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results using concept number 2 in different markets and different directions. But please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future. So please take a moment to view our disclaimer, and then we shall begin this educational presentation. Okay, so let's review concept number 1 before we go any further, because we want to take this step by step to make sure that you understand our concept, because we're trying to build a consistent trader out of you, and it starts from the ground up. We're building a basic format that you must apply to your trading so that you'll be able to be a consistent trader. Now, we talked about in concept number 1, we talked about our 3 trending tools. These are what we use for determining the trend. They're not systems, they're not strategies, they're only meant to be used to determine what the trend is so that we can apply eventually a strategy towards those. Now, trending tool number 1 was the Donchian channels, number 2 was the Bollinger Bands, and number 3 was the 5-period RSI. We explained all the different settings for them and how to apply them, and if you're still not fully aware of how they work or how to set them up, I would go back to review concept number 1 video once again. Now, in today's presentation, we're going to be talking about concept number 2, which goes a step further, because the second thing we want to talk about and focus on is always trading pullbacks within the trend. Because what we've given you so far is a way to find a trend. Now we're going to add a little bit more structure to this, and we're going to be looking for pullbacks. Now, for those of you who aren't really familiar or know what a pullback is, let's give you a brief refresher course. Here's a pullback definition, a standard definition. In an uptrend, a pullback is simply a sell-off or a dip in price that has reached a specific level, and then when all the requirements are met, you can go long or you can purchase. Now, if we look at this ideal scenario right here, we see that we've established a clear uptrend in whatever we're looking at. Now, at this point, we start to sell off, okay? This is where price starts to fade and starts to go lower. Most traders think that we've reached the top, and this is where most traders fail because they're trying to sell thinking that, well, we've topped out, now it's time to go lower. But if all the rules are met, if all the requirements are met, and we come down to a specific level, this is just simply a pullback area. So what we want to do, once again, if all our rules are met, is to buy at this area, and then hopefully, if we have a strategy that's consistent enough, the trend will resume on its upward course. So the advantage to trading pullbacks is if you're going long, you can purchase in an uptrend at a less expensive price. Now conversely, you can also sell uptrends if the overall trend is down. So here is the definition, the standard definition in a downtrend. A pullback is simply a rally this time, or a blip in price that has reached a specific level, and now that all the requirements are met, now you can sell or go short. So let's look at this example once again. This time it's a downtrend. As you can see, a full-fledged downtrend is in place, price is going lower, and then what usually happens, we reach some type of a short-term bottom, but most people think on this rally that is the bottom, and so they buy and they think, well, I've want to buy prices right here. It's very inexpensive. And so this is where I want to purchase, hoping that we're going to go back up and make new highs. Unfortunately, the overall trend is still down. And if all the requirements are met, this is simply just a pullback. And at this level, once the rules are met, you want to actually sell, because the trend should resume its downward course. So this is a good place to sell. Once you have a little bounce or a little bip in price, that's where you want to short or sell at a higher price level before the trend resumes lower. So this is what we're looking for in, I would say, the majority of all of our strategies. We're not simply looking to buy tops or bottoms. In fact, this may look as if we're looking to purchase at the bottom or purchase or sell at the top, but we're looking to purchase at the bottom of a pullback and sell at the top of a pullback. You know that the overall trend is still much stronger than a simple bounce in price, okay? All right, so let's share with you some examples, and we'll use some of the examples that we talked about earlier so that you can fully understand how to apply this process with the new PTS Primo charts. Let's look at the Donchian channels, okay? We talked about the Donchian channels and all their settings. If you want to format them to a 21 period default, and all three Donchian channels must be headed in the same stair-step direction. As we look at our example here, once again in Apple, we see that all the Donchian channels are headed in a stair-step upward direction. So obviously, looking in hindsight, the trend is up. But how could we have taken advantage with a pullback? Well, remember, pullbacks in an uptrend are simply the short sell-offs, as we see here. Now this first pullback is what we labeled a shallow pullback because it doesn't go back very far and it didn't last for a very long time. But as we can see, this second sell-off within the uptrend lasted much longer and it went down much further. This is what we call a deep pullback. And both times the trend resumed. This can still happen to the downside. As we see here, all the Donchian channels are headed in the same stair-step downward direction. So therefore we have a downtrend. Now, along the way, while we've been going lower, we've been met with all these nice little bounces or blips in price. These are actually pullbacks to the upside. So as you can see, these are normal pullbacks. They went back a normal amount of time and then resumed their trend. But at this point, we had a very large rally. It lasted weeks and it went up much higher. This, once again, is a deep pullback. And then as you can see, the trend resumed lower. So we're trying to buy at lower prices. We're trying to sell at higher prices. Now that's using the Donchian channel as our trend determinator. We can also apply this to Bollinger Bands. We gave you all the settings for the Bollinger Bands. Once again, if you're not familiar with them, go back and study the video pertaining to concept number 1 on the PTS Primo charts. Okay, we're looking here at a weekly chart of the spiders. As you can see, the Bollinger Bands have a nice smooth upward slope. They're all in sync with each other, but while we were going up, very rarely do things go straight up. They're often met with these sell-offs, as you can see here, and then another one here, and then still another one here. These were the pullbacks in the uptrend. The first one was just a standard normal pullback. The second one lasted much longer and went down much further, so it was a deep pullback. And then the third one was a shallow pullback. It didn't go down very far and lasted a very short time. Now on the opposite side of the coin, we look at a Australian dollar daily chart here. All of the Bollinger Bands are smoothly headed lower, so the trend was obviously going lower. But while it was going lower, we were met with these nice bounces or rallies in price. These were pullbacks to the upside. You have first 3 normal pullbacks that went up for a few days and then quickly resumed the downward trend. And then you were met with another large rally towards the end of this chart, and that was our deep pullback, and then the sell-off continued. Lastly, we can try this with the 5-period RSI. Here is the setting for that 5-period. Remember, this is a great trend identifier, but it's simply identifying trend. You must count the number of consecutive bars either above or below the midline. Now, this is usually met with very shallow pullbacks because if you have anywhere from 8 to 10 strong consecutive bars either above or below the midline usually signals a strong trend. And when a trend is very strong, it's almost like a river with very strong rapids. You don't get a lot of pullbacks. And that's okay. With this particular type of tool for your trend determination, you'll be looking for the shallow pullbacks. As we see here in KLAC, we have a nice strong trending going up, and the sell-offs aren't very strong. They last for only a few days, and they're very shallow in their sell-off. It's the same thing on a 30-minute chart of the E-mini. We have a strong trending move to the downside on the 5-period RSI count. And you can see we had only one really nice bounce here. It's a very shallow pullback. You had to be quick and get in and then short, hopefully, before the trend resumed lower. So let's review. Remember, all of our methods, all of our strategies are based on concepts number 1 and number 2. Concept number 1 is we're always going to trade in sync with the trend. We gave you 3 trend identifying tools. Then once we know how to determine what the trend is, we're always going to trade pullbacks within the trend. You see how we're just starting to formalize some type of structure to create a strategy. These are the building blocks of consistent trading. Go back and study the examples we have here. And a pullback in an uptrend is just simply a sell-off that meets some requirements. A pullback in a downtrend is simply a nice little rally in price, and then it meets the requirements, and then you sell. Now we ask you to watch this video in its entirety and then watch it as often as you want, because we're going to move on to the next webinar, the next educational webinar, which is extremely important, probably one of our most powerful tools. This is something I've used on a daily basis for 4 decades. We're going to be talking about our number one edge, and that is the buy-sell line. So watch this video as much as you like to understand the concept before you move on to the next one, which deals with edge number 1, our buy-sell line. Now, for any questions concerning the new PTS Primo charts or anything else pertaining to what we have actually on the platform, contact your trading consultant at Pro Trader Strategies, either by emailing them or calling them at the number provided. As you take one last look at our disclaimer, I want to thank you so much for watching these videos. We really feel strongly that they will help you. I use these concepts in my daily trading, and I know that they will make you a consistent trader down the road.